Hi everyone and welcome to the Nonprofit Recruitment Report. My name is Cynthia Harris, the founder and director of Heart Talent. We are a recruitment and talent attraction business supporting non-profit leaders to build happy, engaged and high-performing teams. As part of our commitment to non-profit organisations like yours, we've conducted a review of the state of talent attraction in the Australian non-profit sector. This research culminated in the NFP Talent Attraction Report published earlier this year. Backed by 2 decades working in talent, our research throughout 2023 and early 2024 included more than 400 conversations with non-profit leaders and a comprehensive review of the recruitment, marketing and employer brand presence of more than 200 organisations. I'm proud to say this report is the first of its kind in Australia. Today, I'd like to walk you through a summary of some of our research findings, and I really hope these insights are useful. It's a 4-part video series, so we've chopped it up into a couple of sections. Please feel free to get in touch if you have any questions, thoughts or feedback. I should also say that my videos are unedited. I'm all about content being real and authentic, so please forgive any bloopers along the way. Right, let's get started. Now, before we dive into Heart Talent's research, I'd like to talk briefly about the modern work landscape. Let's set the scene, and I'd like to perhaps explain why we decided to do this research, why the report was published and why this is important. Talent challenges are widely documented around the world. In 2023, 4 in 10 Australian employers reported recruitment difficulties, and this really hasn't shifted very much in 2024. Now, this is according to quarterly research published by the Australian HR Institute. Long before the pandemic and the so-called resignation, talent has been the #1 issue keeping Australian business leaders up at night. And this is based on research conducted by KPMG Australia every year since 2017. And only this year, in 2024, has cyber risk trumped talent acquisition and retention as the #1 issue facing Australian business leaders. And even then, it was only by 1 single point. Of course, over the last 4 years, we've seen historically low unemployment, we've seen closed borders amplifying the skills shortage and the tightest labour market in Australian history. Today, the market remains reasonably tight, and while recruitment difficulty has eased a little, the reality is that people are still on the move. The average turnover in Australian workplaces for the 12 months until March 2024 was 15%. And 1 in 3 employers report turnover of 20% or above. Unemployment is up, but it's still expected to remain low. Predictions suggest a rise to perhaps 4.5% in the middle of 2025. The average tenure of an Australian worker is around half of what it was a decade ago. I know I've just thrown a lot of stats at you, but all of this is to say talent challenges are here to stay. Even when market dynamics shift a little, attracting and retaining the right talent will remain a mission critical issue for leaders. And one of the reasons behind this increased talent mobility and higher turnover is the evolution of employment. Now, you can read more about this in the NFP Talent Attraction Report, but in short, work plays a very different role in our lives than it did in the past. The meaning and purpose of work has evolved, and so too has the relationship between employer and employee. In the 1990s, we started measuring employee engagement. That very much became a thing across the world, and the concept of a war on talent was coined by McKinsey. Not long after this, we started talking about the future of work, and suffice to say, I think it's time to move on from focusing on all of these things. The future of work is now. We don't have a war on talent. We need to shift our mindset towards a new dynamic and the era of talent. What people want and expect from their employer has changed, and no matter what the market is doing, there will always be competition for good employees. PwC Australia's 3rd annual non-profit CEO survey showed that 75% of CEOs in the non-profit sector in Australia and New Zealand report adverse impacts from widespread skills shortages. So when we consider this alongside the changed dynamic of work and other workplace statistics, the result is a powerful picture of what I like to call the era of talent. In the next video, we'll dive into Heart Talent's research specific to the non-profit sector.